How can the Broncos get better? After a 32-point victory where it seemed like Bo Nix and the offense were perfect and the defense did not allow a touchdown, we're going to break down how the offense can improve, how the defense can improve, and it all starts now. Bo does it again. Todd, some breaking news just coming down the wire right now. Another award for Bo Nix. This time, maybe the biggest of them yet. And we're going to break it down on the DNVR Broncos Podcast. We are live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. We are driven, also driven by Bet365. Use that code DNVR365. Deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets, plus Altitude Plus, courtesy of Bet365. We are the DNVR Broncos Podcast. We got Super Bowl 50 champ Todd Davis. You here behind the camera. Yours truly, Zach Stevens, rocking and rolling with you today. Todd, right as we started this show, news broke that Bo Nix has been named AFC Offensive Player of the Week, one-upping what he did last week, which was NFL Rookie of the Week. This is AFC Offensive Player of the Week.
I could have told you that. Based off his performance on Sunday, man, I think you look around the league, I know Jared Goff balled out, but he's on the NFC side, so
yep,
it had to be Bo Nix. If they had given it to anybody else, actually, I got to bring this up now. If PFF was in charge of the grades, maybe Bo Nix wouldn't have won it. Did you see that chart?
Where I saw you being angry about it. Yeah, I like that.
I can't trust them. I just can't. I've seen them have too many crazy takes.
Was it for their disrespect toward Bo?
Yeah, they have the highest graded rookies, and Bo Nix is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's 7th on the list, behind Caleb Williams.
What? The guy that hasn't had a touchdown in a month?
Yes.
And Bo Nix has 11 in that time span?
Yes.
You got to be kidding me.
And they're just talking about week 11. Now, they're not even talking about total season. They're talking about this last week where Bo Nix went for 307 and 4 touchdowns. Bro, they have him graded out at 83%.
Oh, my. That's lower than his pass or than his completion percentage.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Oh, my goodness. What did Caleb do? Oh, they lost the game? Didn't they score 18, 19 points?
Yeah, he didn't have a good
38.
He didn't have a good game at all.
0 touchdowns, I know that for sure. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 231 yards. And he said he had a 95 rating.
Oh my goodness, that is absurd.
Intangible. He had an impact.
Right. He's Caleb Williams. He was the number 1 overall pick. Todd, imagine how difficult life would be for Bo Nix right now to get national attention if he wasn't just the 6th quarterback taken at number 12. If he was like an undrafted quarterback doing this, people wouldn't even know his name.
We have to work really hard to get love. Shout out to all those undrafted players getting love. But it's hard because they like to typecast you even from the time you come to the league. Like where you're drafted, it means something. It doesn't mean that teams got it wrong. It just means that's where you are and you're outperforming where they had you ranked.
Yep,
which is crazy. I mean, he had a 50-point higher rating. How is he rated below him?
Insane. That is insane.
50 points?
That makes no sense.
Some people don't have a 50 rating at all.
No. Wow, that's ridiculous. So PFF isn't giving love, but the NFL is giving love. And Todd, we know his performance was historic. This award is also historic because Bo becomes the first player, first Broncos quarterback, rookie quarterback, to earn this award. No one else in Broncos history as a rookie has done this from the quarterback position, the most important position in sports. He also joins Marcus Mariota as the only 2 former Oregon quarterbacks to win Player of the Week as a rookie. Marcus Mariota, what, number 2 overall pick in that draft? Let's hope Bo's career shapes out a little better than Marcus Mariota. But, I mean, just another historic thing for Bo to get. And we're 11 weeks into his career right now. And
he deserved it. I mean, he was head and shoulders above anybody else in the AFC this week. I mean, this wasn't a gimme award. He definitely went out there and earned it. I'm happy for him to have some success, and people finally realize it. Hopefully now this puts him in the national conversation for Rookie of the Year.
Yep, 100%. It absolutely should. Now, Todd, he's won Player of the Rookie of the Month in October. Now he's won Offensive Player of the Week. That means he's the best player on the offensive side of the ball in the AFC, not just rookies. This one is not a rookie award. This is everyone is involved. Jared Goff won it in the NFC, and of course he had pretty much the exact same stat line as Bo Nix. I guess he threw for 400 yards instead of 300. And then last week he also won NFL's Rookie of the Week. He's going to win that again. That award comes out tomorrow, so he's going to be the back-to-back winner of that. He's probably also going to win NFL's Player of the Month for October for a rookie. So, I mean, he's going to be the best rookie according to these awards for 2 straight months, and he just is stacking these awards.
I don't know why people are acting like he didn't go number 12 overall. Like, he's not a second-round pick. He's not there. Like, he went top 12. Like, this is crazy.
Well, it's because, I mean, it's kind of what you hear was joking about earlier. It's because a lot of people thought Bo Nix was a third-round pick, and boy, is it taking people forever to change their pre-opinions about him. They still want to be right, so they're still trying to hold on to. I don't know what you can hold on to right now in terms of a negativity towards Bo. If you want to keep pointing to weeks 1 and 2, okay, then you're just not doing your job. You're not watching football, because there's been 9 games since then, and Bo has been the best rookie quarterback in those 9 games, and arguably the best rookie quarterback in this entire season right now. We really broke it down yesterday. So, Todd, let's turn this conversation into the defense played nearly perfect. The offense, I mean, we're talking about the best player in the AFC is who the Broncos had on offense. The rest of the offense obviously played well to help Bo. They put up 38 points against a 6 and then 4 Atlanta Falcons team. How can this team get better? Because they were coming off a 2-game losing streak, maybe truly a 1-game losing streak because of the way that Chiefs game went. But I'm sure Sean Payton's in the meetings today, lighting a fire under these guys and showing them all the things they did wrong and how they could get better. And so let's start with the offensive side. Let's look at how the offense can get better despite having the best player in the NFL on the offensive side of the ball last week.
Well, I think as a team, you can always get better. Like, until you're winning, multiple championships back to back, like there's always room for improvement.
And even then, the Chiefs can get better right now.
And even then, my first thing to point to would probably be the rushing game. Like, we still haven't had a 100-yard rusher. Like, that's something we do need if we're going to be a successful team.
Yep.
For the long stretch. So you look at the running backs. There's talent there, but we still need somebody to step up and be our first 100-yard rusher of this year. I think that's another thing that we need to do. Like, it's a must. Like, we can't go the whole season without a 100-yard rusher, no matter how well Bo is playing.
It is really. Thank goodness for Cortland Sutton for getting multiple 100-yard receiving games, because the streak that the Broncos had going of no 100-yard rushers, no 100-yard receivers was bad. But come on, I mean, the streak of no 100-yard rushers is still really bad. Yeah. And you're spot on, Todd. In fact, I have some notes written down. That's the number one thing I have. Running game stability. Tell me if I'm wrong here. The Broncos past couple of weeks have been playing the hot hand. Audric Estime leads his team in rushing against the Chiefs. It seems like he's going to be the starting running back, getting the bulk share of the work moving forward. Then this past week, it's Javonte Williams. And credit to Audric, he had a good game against the Chiefs. Credit to Javonte, averaged 6.6 yards per carry. Still only got 9 carries, I think, for 50-something yards this past week. Can the hot hand approach work consistently for a long stretch of a season?
It can, as long as you're giving the hot hand enough carries. Like, if that hand's really hot, you got to be giving them 12 to 15 carries. Like, still last week, nobody had over 9 carries. There's no double-digit carries. So it definitely can work. Everybody has to stay prepared. But when it's hot, feed them the ball. they still need to be a big part of this offense.
And I totally agree. That's something that I love what Bo Nix is doing. But the history of football says when playoffs come around, especially if you go play the Texans, okay, fine. You're playing in a dome in Houston. Bo Nix can continue to do what he's doing. You don't have to have a running game for that one. But if you go into Buffalo, or you go into a cold Kansas City, or you go into Pittsburgh, Baltimore, all these teams outside of Houston that are hosting playoff games or that will host playoff games because the Broncos probably won't be in that spot, that means you're going to have to run the ball. That's just what history says. You win playoff games by playing great defense and running the ball. Just look at 2015 Broncos. That's exactly what you guys did. And so I think that's something. Maybe I'm looking too far ahead with this Broncos team right now, but I think the Broncos need to start prepping for the playoffs and prepping for this stretch. They play Cincinnati week 17. That could be a game where they really have to rely on the run. I totally trust Bo, but you have to develop a consistent running game that you can trust.
You have to. Like we said, you got to be a balanced offense. And when you're going up against a good defense, they're going to take away what you do best, which right now is passing the ball.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of weeks. So they're going to try to shut down Bo and, put a lot of pressure on him. So we're going to need a good running game to help us stay in games.
Yeah, and Todd, right now the Broncos have the 20th most rushing yards in the NFL, so almost bottom 10. They're bottom 10 in rushing touchdowns. They have the 22nd most, and Bo has 4 of those. That is part of your running game, but it's not really like what you think of as the intimidating, strong part of it. So the running backs have even less than that, and they have the 17th best yards per carry. That, in my opinion, if the Broncos do want to make a deep run in the playoffs, needs to get better. Doesn't need to be top 5, but you want to help Bo out as much as you can, even though he's playing great right now. Okay, I have some other key notes because I totally agree with you about that first one. I have some other ones for the offensive side of the ball that I want to dive into after I give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365, where you use the code DNVR365 over at Bet365. Deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets, which you can use on anything you want, plus Altitude Plus, courtesy of Bet365. So you can open a Bet365 account, place a bet on the Nuggets or the Avs, and then watch the Nuggets or the Avs on Altitude Plus that they provide courtesy of Bet365. We talked about Rookie of the Odds last week. Bo Nix still plus 350. I wouldn't be surprised after this award just came out. That number is going to go down to plus 300, plus 250, plus 200. Todd, I think eventually in these next 2 weeks, we could see Bo overtake Jayden Daniels for the Rookie of the Year front runner. So if you like that, you can get in on that right now over at Bet365. Again, code DNVR365 when you sign up to get this deal. Must be 21 and older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, once help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And shout out to our friends over at Toyota. You guys know that we are in the Toyota Lounge, and we love our Toyota trucks here. And trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA for generations. Toyota has built durable legends destined for the greatness and perfect for Colorado. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there is a Toyota truck that is just right for you, like the all-new 2024 Tacoma and the return of the iconic 2024 Land Cruiser. Toyota offers 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the epic 4Runner. And we want you guys to head to your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. You can visit the Auto Nation Toyota Arapahoe and Centennial, the Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR.
All right, Todd, I've got 3 more things that are on my wish list. Be Santa here and tell me which ones
You're not sitting on my lap.
Oh my goodness. You got to grow a beard for me to sit on your lap.
Nope. That's why God didn't bless me to grow a beard, I guess.
Me neither. We'll never be a Santa. So I got 3 things. You tell me if I get all 3, 2, 1. Maybe 0 of them. Maybe the running game's all I get. I want the Broncos to develop a tight end to be a weapon here. I don't care who it is. If it's Troutman, that's great. If it's Kroll, that's great. I really don't think it's going to be Dulcich, but I want a tight end to emerge to be a threat enough. It's ridiculous to ask for a top 10 tight end, but just something that the defense is a little scared of. So that's one of them. I want Marvin Mims' role that he's been in the past 2 weeks to be established, and to that not just be we're going to do it every couple of games, that to be a role that he can be involved in and have that type of production. And then 3, find Troy Franklin. We had him in the New Orleans Saints game, then he's kind of disappeared so far. He, as a threat, is just so scary, I think, to a defense, but he actually has to show up as a threat in order for that to be scary. Which one of those 3 are you granted? Maybe be a genie instead of Santa? Is that better? Which of these wishes am I granted?
I'll give you the tight end one because I think Marvin Mims. I think he's solidified. So I don't know if you have to wish for that.
Good.
So you can have that wish back.
Because great, I like that.
Yeah.
So with Marvin, some people think it's like maybe a little Deebo Samuel role, but obviously he's built a lot different than Deebo Samuel. He's not able to power over guys by taking a handoff in the middle of the offensive line. Is this sustainable? This is sustainable, you think?
Yeah, sustainable, but not because of him running the ball. Like I don't think they're like the outside runs. Those are cool. You know what I'm saying? They make sense, but I think they just have to stay balanced in that personnel so that people have to prepare for both the run and the pass.
Yeah.
But I think they want to get to that to be able to have options and mismatches based in the passing game.
Yeah, and boy, I mean, you broke it down on the Inside Scoop earlier this week, just exactly how it was a defensive end covering Marvin Mims, I think. Yeah, give me that all day long. And man, that could be something that truly unlocks the offense. I mean, we saw it this past week. It definitely did that. But right now, we've talked about how it's Cortland Sutton and then a big drop-off between the rest of your playmakers on the team. If Marvin Mims is that guy that, honestly, I thought he was going to be this year, if this new role allows him to be that guy, you got 2 playmakers, and then you can find a tight end one week, and then you can find Troy Franklin another week. Devon Vele, no one's talking about him as a playmaker, but he's like anything you could hope for a third wide receiver, if not a second wide receiver. Just a guy that's going to catch anything in his vicinity. You partner that with Marvin Mims being a playmaker, okay. Now we're talking about 3 wide receivers now.
Yeah, it'll definitely make the room feel a little bit more complete to have Marvin step into his role. I think Bailey's doing good, especially as a rookie. He's mature, he's older, so he understands what he's supposed to do. And like you said, I don't know if he's like necessarily the guy that's going to take a screen to the house, 80 yards, but as far as being where he needs to, catch some football, being consistent, I think he's been that when he's been on the field.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, Todd, one more thing that I didn't want to include in that because it's just something the Broncos have to have. They have to have more consistency on the offensive side of the ball. As good as this past game was, 2 games ago, even though the Broncos had an opportunity to beat the Chiefs, Todd, they had, I think, like 10 yards of offense in the first quarter.
3 bad quarters.
Yeah, 3 really bad quarters. 1 great quarter. The second quarter was great, 150 yards. Third quarter, they had 12 yards of offense. Then the fourth quarter, they had negative 2 yards of offense before their final drive.
Yeah.
It can't happen. You have to be more consistent there. If the Broncos offense shows up for 1 more quarter, they win the game against it. It doesn't matter what Alex Forsythe and that special teams unit does. So, and then the weekend before that, against the Baltimore Ravens, we talked about you can score on them. Broncos only scored 10 points. Got to be more consistent if they truly want to make a deep playoff run. Maybe they don't have to be very consistent to make the playoffs because they're in a playoff spot right now with being a little shaky. But if they want to be a true team this year, just more consistently, the good thing is we've seen it happen.
We've seen it in spurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we definitely have to get this offense to play, at a high, consistent manner. Otherwise, in a game where we need them and the defense is not as elite, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But, there's going to come a time where we're going to need our offense to go up against a tough defense and find a way to beat them. So it's much easier to do when you've been consistent, for multiple games and you found ways to get to the end zone. As of right now, we're doing some good things. Yeah. But it's definitely not consistent. You talk about 8 quarters and we had 6 good ones. 5 good ones. Yeah. Last 2 games. So better than we were, but we got to keep it
exactly, and just continue to go in that direction. Okay, Todd, you said it's easier said than done. So let's flip over to the other side because it's probably easier to nitpick the Broncos offense than it is the Broncos defense. How can this Broncos defense get any better Or are they? No, they can't be the best that they can be, right?
No, they're pretty dang close though.
Yeah.
They're playing at a really level. I mean, the only thing you can do probably more is more turnovers.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, they're pretty locked down. They've been locked down. Held the Chiefs to 1 touchdown. Had the Falcons to no touchdown. I mean, outside of Baltimore, they've been a really dominant defense all year. So, probably a couple more turnovers is all I can ask from them, really.
I have one note written down, and it's takeaways.
Yeah.
And because right now, that's the only thing the Broncos are average in when it comes to their defense. They're great against the run. They're great against the pass. A crazy stat that I came across via Zebra Sports yesterday, Todd. We know how well the Broncos did against Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
Held him to, 2.8 yards per carry, 32 rushing yards, just made him look like an average Joe running back when he's really a top 3 running back in the NFL, according to Zach Allen. The Broncos not only shut Bijan down, they did it without one stacked box. How? I mean, that just blew my mind because it was clear from Sean Payton after the game that their number one focus was stopping Bijan.
Yep.
Yet Vance didn't have to load the box to do it. So isn't that just a credit to the front 7 guys, really the defensive line, for just winning?
Yeah, they're winning, and they're winning at a high rate. And if you're not going to double them, we talked about it a couple of times, like you can only pick one person to double on that line, for most of the game.
Yeah.
And that means everybody else has a one-on-one, and I trust that our guys are better than your guys in winning their one-on-one matchups.
Can you double team one guy when it comes to an offensive line choosing who they double?
Usually, because we run like our base front is usually 5 down.
Right.
So, between the tight end and the tackle, they could double someone, or a guard and center, they can double someone. Now, if we go to a 4-man front, you can probably pick 2 guys to double. But usually we're in that 5-man front.
Do you think defense or offenses are now always doubling Zach Allen, or do you think it can change?
I would start with Zach.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be a tough day with Malcolm Roach and JFM, but I think you have to start with Zach, because if you don't double Zach, the play's over from the start.
Right. And then are you chipping Nick Bonito? Has he earned that yet?
I think you saw it. I mean, there's a couple sacks that I broke down that he was getting chipped.
Yep.
One in the Chiefs game, one last week with Ray-Way McCloud. Like, they started chipping him, and he's still getting home. So I don't know what they're going to do now.
And then it's just a massive problem because now your secondary is already great.
Yep.
And so maybe this is where the turnovers and the takeaways come, is when your defensive line and your front 5, really, not even 7, your front 5 is just dominating. And then your secondary is great. So you're getting pressure, and you're not having to bring 8 guys to get pressure.
Yep.
Then there's just extra guys out there to pick off passes, because I mentioned the Broncos are average. Right now, they have the 15th most takeaways. I mean, almost dead middle of the pack. And when I think of how important takeaways are, this Broncos defense is elite.
Mm-hmm.
The Super Bowl 50 defense that you were on, Todd, was elite. But what took you guys from being an elite defense in 2015 to one of the all-time best defenses in the NFL, like that next step up, was the game-changing plays? You guys, great against the run, great against the pass, but you won so many games because of turnovers at the right time, but then just also dominating the turnover battle, where Peyton Manning was throwing interceptions left and right, which was so uncharacteristic, and it didn't really matter because you guys were getting 2, 3, 4 turnovers every single game. And that's really the only thing I can nitpick with this Broncos defense right now, is they're elite. They're not in the conversation of getting like an all-time nickname or being in that conversation yet. If they make game-changing plays down the stretch and win games with turnovers, and then they're able to make that run in the playoffs because of the takeaways and turnovers, then they enter that conversation right now. That's just the one thing that they don't have right now, where they're average and not great.
Yeah, because they had one last week. They didn't have any against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
So,
and they didn't have any against the Ravens. 1 takeaway in the past 3 games.
Yeah, they definitely need to get better in that area. And it makes it easier on yourself as a defense, like when we can take the ball away. Because even if we stop them, like they held the Falcons out of the end zone, but it was still like a 9-play drive. We can get that down to 3 plays, and we're all the field, and give the offense a short field position. Like, it's just going to make it easier for the defense if they're able to get takeaways.
Yeah, it's a really good point. The Broncos also, it's a key. It's not a surprise, but it's a key for the Broncos. 4 of their 5 losses, they've had 0 takeaways. One of the losses, they had 1 takeaway. So in all 5 of their losses, they've only had 1 takeaway. In all of their wins, they've had at least 1 takeaway with multiple takeaways in 4 of their 6 wins. So Broncos get a takeaway, they pretty much win the game. Broncos get multiple takeaways, the game is over, they win because Bo and the offense aren't turning the ball over, especially over these past 9 weeks after the first 2 weeks. So the Broncos offense isn't losing games. If the Broncos defense gets takeaways, they just won the game for the Broncos right there. And I think back to Raiders week, which it is right now, the last Raiders week, the Broncos were on the verge of going down, 17-3 or something in that game, 14-0, I don't remember exactly what. And then Pat Surtain gets a pick 6. The game was over right there. If Pat doesn't get that pick 6 and was that Gardner Minshew at that point, hits Brock Bowers for a touchdown, that might have been game over the other way. It just shows right there in one play in this season how important those are.
And that's just not for the Broncos. That's for the NFL as a whole. Like, they have all the stats for turnovers from the time they started collecting data. And it's like if you get 2 in a game, you're like 89% favorite to win that game. Like, it's very rare that you lose a game where you've gotten 2 takeaways. So it's huge. I think that would be good for the Broncos to aim for, at least 1, maybe 2 takeaways a game. It's going to help them win games.
Where does, if we're asking for takeaways, where are we asking it to come from? Is it the secondary and interceptions? Is it strip sacks? Is it Cody Barton ripping the ball out when a guy's being held up?
I would like to see some more forced fumbles. I don't know if we have many of those. And sack fumbles. Like, we're getting home at like a really consistent rate. And some of them, like, we are being able to get the quarterback on his blind side. Like, if we could just find a way to get the ball out right there, like, that would be a huge play for the team.
So if you're Vance Joseph and Nick Bonito is getting to the quarterback multiple plays a game, do you tell him now to maybe start going for the ball, or is it still take down the quarterback at all costs? Don't worry about the ball yet.
No, go for the ball. You're already getting there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
true.
You're getting home at a good rate. You don't have to be thinking about it before the play. Just now, right on impact, think about, pulling that ball from his right arm. So he can definitely handle that.
Yeah, I think so. And man, he is second most sacks in the NFL right now.
Yep.
He's not eligible for an extension during the season. Right after the season ends, though, he'll just wrap up his 3rd year. And if you're drafted, you can sign a new deal after your 3rd season, where undrafted guys can do that after their 2nd season. But since Nick was drafted, he can do it after this season. And man, you wonder if Nick's going to take a little bit of a hometown discount to get $60 million guaranteed right now, or if he's going to say, I want to hit the open market because if I do this for another year and I'm top 3 in sacks in the NFL back-to-back years, he's going to be looking at Nick Bosa's deal, $35 million a year or something crazy like that. So that's definitely going to be a storyline to follow this offseason. But before we get there, we've got so much football left to play, including talking to our guy, Brian Baldinger. And before we head out to the hotline, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Westera Credit Union, where you guys know they were founded right here in Colorado in 1934. Now they've got 9 locations in Denver, and they're all about helping their members financially prosper, with education really being their thing. And over at Westera Credit Union, they've got a new perk that just dropped literally 30 minutes ago, hot off the press. Between now and December 31st, new members who open accounts with them will get $100. So if you open a new account between now and the end of the year, you're going to get $100 from Westera Credit Union. Also, check out their Smart Money checking account, which you can earn up to 6% annual percentage yield on your first $2,000 each month. That's up to $120 a year. Then your next chunk of cash will make you 3% APY, and so on. In addition to the interest, this account also comes with a rewards debit credit card and has no monthly or maintenance fees, and so much more. So if you like earning money, you want that $100, open an account over at westeracu.com/smartmoney. Insured by the NCUA. Membership eligibility required. Restrictions and conditions apply.
And shout out to our friends over at Live Well. If you want to live well, you got to head over to their dispensaries, because Live Well strives to make cannabis accessible to all. because they believe everyone deserves to live well. They have 25 convenient Colorado dispensaries, locations with a premium selection and expert service that await you. Their knowledgeable support staff are here to help you on your journey. Visit a Live Well dispensary to learn more about their wide selection of cannabis flowers, edibles, concentrates, and more. You can visit livewell.com today to reserve your products online for a quick in-store pickup or simply stop by. They can't wait to answer all of your questions about cannabis. You can use code DNVR25 in-store and receive 25% off one regular price item. Restrictions apply.
And shout out to our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up to get that deal. Todd, one area we didn't talk about, special teams. What needs to improve moving forward? Or is there anything?
Yeah, I think, Marvin Mims hasn't had, he had one good return last week, 30 yards. But I think back over the season, there hasn't been, a plethora of good returns like he had last year that made him, a Pro Bowl player. I think he can get better as a returner. He might be more tired now, playing a lot more offense. But, yeah, I think they could do just a better job blocking for him and creating more big-time returns.
Yeah, no touchdowns, right?
Yeah, no touchdowns.
That's what kind of took him over the top to being a Pro Bowl returner last year was he had a couple of touchdowns in the return game. Those are also things, just like turnovers. If you get a special teams touchdown, your chances of winning games skyrocket 80, 90%. Maybe the Broncos are just holding back on those until when they need it the most, but that's something. Obviously, you hope they figured it out with their field goal protection unit last week by sliding Alex Forsythe to the outside, putting a bigger body in Matt Pert on the inside there so he can handle more of a bull rush. And that job, a lot of people say it's the hardest job on special teams because you're having to take on potentially 3 guys at times. No?
I play special teams. I don't know if that right there is the hardest job, but, I'll say it's not easy.
Maybe they're just trying to help Alex out right now.
It is what it is.
If it's as simple as that being the fix, then great. I wish they would have done it before the Kansas City game, but at least they've got it figured out for the stretch run right now. Will Lutz been pretty money. I mean, been about as good as you could have hoped so far.
Except for, we never know what happened in KC,
Yeah.
If he doesn't get blocked, does he make it?
That's true. That's a really good
no,
point.
he's been playing well.
Okay, I have to send a link to Baldy right now for him to join us. Todd, anything else you want to see from the defense?
Man, I mean, we can't be greedy. We got to enjoy what we have. I think to ask them to do anything else is just pure greed at this point. I think that's where you get yourself in trouble. And so, I'm just going to enjoy where the defense is at and how they're playing. And I don't want to, make them have to do any more else. They already have their Superman cape on. I don't know what else they could do.
Then what about coaching?
What can the coaches do?
Yeah.
Hire Todd Davis. No,
Exactly.
no, coaching is going good, man. They have these guys ready to play. They have them dialed in. So they must be doing something right.
Yeah, and what I want to see from coaching, I want to see Sean Payton continue to have the type of game that he had last week, where honestly, I think it was the best game that he's had as a play caller for the Broncos. And let's talk about this with our guy, Brian Baldinger. Baldy, what's going on?
Hey guys, good to see you. Kind of getting ready for week 12, putting week 11 to bed right now. So just staying on top of everything.
And Baldy, we're doing that as well, breaking down how the Broncos can improve after a 32-point win. But we do have to look back at least a little bit because Bo Nix was just named the AFC's Offensive Player of the Week. Not rookie, Offensive Player of the Week for his performance. How impressed were you with Bo's performance this past week?
Well, it's unbelievable, actually. When you think about 3 months ago at the start of the season, he couldn't get a ball to a wide receiver. And now, he can find receivers all over the field. He's seen the field better. The play selection, play design was outstanding. I felt like he was always protected, and he had good vision to a lot of his targets. So it was, obviously it was his best game that he's played, but that's a good defense. That's Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons on the back end of that defense. Those guys have 55 career interceptions between them, and they couldn't get their hand on the football. It was very impressive.
Now, Baldy, I feel like I've talked to a couple of national media members, And it's been tough for them to give Bo credit. You know, they say he played good, but they want to talk about all the DBs and corners that were missing on the Atlanta Falcons defense. How do you feel about, Bo's play, or was it just that the Atlanta Falcons were missing some players?
No, I don't want to even look at that. I mean, whoever's out there is out there for Atlanta. So, I just think that when you execute like that, I don't care who's in there. I mean, that's about the quarterback seeing the field, making the throws, accurate throws, difficult throws over the middle of the field, seam routes, down the middle. I thought it was impressive. And I'm not really worried about who was in or who was in the lineup. And I don't want to put an asterisk next to his name because of that. That's not fair to him.
Baldy, I want to also ask you, since you're a national guy and you're so dialed in with the rest of the league, and what's the temperature on where the Rookie of the Year conversation stands from a national perspective? Obviously, Jayden Daniels was a very heavy favorite, deservedly so. Bo's really kind of pulled it to now what, at least in Broncos country, seems like it should be a very even race, 50-50 between these two. But it doesn't feel like it's that way in the national perspective yet. Is that right, or do you think Bo's actually getting some credit now?
No, I think you got to play it all the way out. I mean, Jayden got off to an unbelievable start.
Yeah.
I mean, he was completing 75% of his passes for the first 6 or 7 weeks. Washington, 2 weeks ago was 7-2. They were comfortably in first place in the NFC East, and he was getting all the attention. Didn't play particularly well against the Eagles on Thursday night. Last time he played, I mean, it's one game, but I feel like Bo is just gradually and increasingly getting better and better. And as these games get bigger, he got a game against the Raiders, Cleveland, games where, winnable games. He went through a tough stretch. Look, you go on the road, you play Kansas City and Baltimore. There's not a whole lot of starters in this league, veterans that are going to play great in those situations. And so, he bounced back really strong last week against Atlanta, first place team. They're undefeated against the NFC South, I believe, this year. There's still 6 weeks left of games where he has a chance to, make a name for himself, make the playoffs perhaps. And if that's the case, then he should get the recognition.
As Bo Nix continues to improve and get better, what are some other pieces of this Denver Broncos offense that you feel like needs to get better to help Bo and this team make a push to the playoffs?
Well, I thought they ran the ball better last week, but that they certainly have to run the ball better. You look at the teams in that division, the Chargers playing great football, they're running the ball really well. 29-yard run at the end of the game, 20 seconds to go to win the game and not send it into overtime. Can you run it when you have to run it right now? And that's really, I mean, they're rotating. I don't know what the rotation is because all three guys are playing. It depends on, I guess, the series, the down the distance, the situation. But they're playing three running backs now, and I think that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to run the ball better when they have to run it. Can they get it? Can they run it in the red zone? Can they run it on short yards and goal line? Can they run it in the 4-minute drill with the lead? Those kind of things I think are going to be crucial. As you begin this playoff stretch, which usually begins, next week at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Baldy. That's something we talked about earlier. And you mentioned earlier that Sean Payton had one of his best game calls. And one of the things I loved from it was how he used Marvin Mims. And over the past 2 weeks, he's used Marvin Mims in kind of this joker role. He's had him all over the field. Is this something that's sustainable, and how much does it open up the offense?
Well, he cut the wheel route, coming out of the backfield like he did. It was a big chunk play, flipped the field position. Look, I think the guy's got what Sean's doing is whatever pieces he has, let's figure out a way to use them. And the best, and so there is no set playbook here. I think it could continually change and alter depending on the opponent, depending on what who's healthy with the Raiders, particular this week or next week against Cleveland. I think he's just looking for matchups right now and who he has that can win matchups. And I think it's going to change week to week. But, that's what him and Drew Brees did for 15 years in New Orleans and to great success and a Super Bowl win. And so I think you could see more of it. I mean, it might be a bigger role for Troy Franklin. You're seeing Ville right now becoming, a bigger role in this offense. I'm not sure what the next piece is or what other type of cards he has up his sleeves, but I know just following him for as long as I have, like there's still more to come.
You know, Baldy, everybody wants to talk about the offense and Bo Nix, but I got to give some credit to that defense, man. They did a great job on Sunday, you know, holding Kirk Cousins to 0 touchdowns, an interception, and really stopping a star-studded offense. Were you surprised to see how well the Broncos defense did on Sunday?
Yeah, I was, yeah. Because they are a good – they do have good pieces. I mean, when you look at, you know, Bijan and Drake and Pitts and some, you know, like those guys are good players, and they've had good success. But the secondary is lights out good, and it's married by a really good front. John Franklin Myers was a great pickup. He's an every down player in a variety of roles, just like he was with the Jets and the Rams. Like, he's a good player. But Zach Allen, like Malcolm Roach, this group is tough to run against. And so it starts up front with those guys, and obviously, you know, you're getting, you know, Benito is getting off and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that the secondary was outstanding all day against that group.
Baldy, there's some metrics, speaking of that defense, that say Zach Allen has the best pass rush win rate, pressure rate, and then also he's like top 3 in terms of run stop percentage. Is he, from your perspective, is he playing like one of the best defensive linemen in the entire NFL?
He looks like J.J. Watt Jr., you know, like I know they don't play together in Arizona.
Yeah,
he learned a lot from J.J., but I mean, he's a force. I mean, Zach is a force. He doesn't get any national attention. Nobody even knows he's number 99. They don't know because they don't watch and they don't study. But he's a force every week. Like he chases and plays the game the right way. He plays it hard the way JJ did. I think he learned a lot from him. But he can win in the pass rush. I didn't know he was winning in pass rush ratio. That's new to me. But that's all right. But you know, he's fundamentally very, very sound. He stacks and shed in the run game. He gets on your edge in the pass game. He's got counter moves to beat you in protection. He sees the field and recognizes the situations really well. He's an elite player. It's the reason why he's the focal point of this defense up front right now.
But I got to ask you about another player on that front four, Nick Bonito. I feel like he's playing lights out right now. You know, when you're first coming out as a outside linebacker, you're starting to do well. You get a lot of one-on-one blocks, and they start chipping you, and it feels like now he's able to win even being chipped. How do you feel about his performance and him being ranked second in the league in sacks right now?
Well, he's been on a good climb. You know, I thought it started last year. I thought he was out there. He plays in really a variety of roles in that defense. He's not just a pass rusher. And so I think he recognizes right now the situation in games like he did last week. I think he understands down distance situations. Like, it's more than just winning in pass rush. It's understanding how to do it, when to do it, what you're going to go up against. He's going to get a lot more attention. He's going to get double digits this year, which is always sort of the benchmark. But I think he's playing above all of that. I think they're all working together, you know, right now. And so I think he's the beneficiary of other guys that are playing well up front. But he's starting to get national attention. He was on the Insiders NFL Network yesterday, saw the interview. He was very good. But he gives a lot of credit to Vance, gives a lot of credit to everybody else on that defensive secondary, locking guys up, giving them an extra chance, an extra tick, to be able to get to the quarterback. So I think he's going to get a good chance this week, honestly. I don't think the right tackle with the Raiders is very good. I think they have a lot of issues just watching them against the Dolphins last week. I think he's going to get some opportunities this week to get to double digits.
Baldy, you mentioned some offensive line play. I want to round us out here by getting your expertise on the Broncos offensive line. There's also some metrics out there that say the Broncos offensive line is the best pass blocking offensive line in the NFL. When you watch the film, how impressed have you been with their ability to protect Bo?
Well, I'm impressed. Bo escapes a lot too. I mean, he's very elusive. That helps however they create those metrics. The thing that impressed me about the line last week was how athletic they were down the field last week. Whether it was Quinn Miners or Ben Powers or, guys getting downfield, Wattenberg getting down the field and picking guys off with some of those screens that they ran last week. Because I think if you want to be a great line, it's got to be more than just run blocking. It's got to be more than just protecting your quarterback. Like, I think you've got to have a perimeter game and a game down the field. to slow down the rush. And so I thought they were really good in that department last week.
I love it, Baldy. Next week, we'll probably be talking about a 7-5 Broncos team with you if they can take care of business against the Raiders this week. But we love your insight, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Yep, thanks. I'll talk to you next week, guys. You bet.
Man, I mean, talk about some high praise for Zach Allen there. Saying a little JJJ. J.J. Watt Jr. there. That is, you think that's too much praise? Or you think he's right?
I think he's right on point. That's exactly who he's playing like. So, yeah.
Yep, and that's who he wanted to build his game after. He
99.
got to play with him in Arizona for a while. And maybe J.J. Watt or Zach Allen needs to check out our friends over at Saturday Neon. Because if you check out Saturday Neon, you can get your neon signs. We've got so many Saturday Neon signs in the bar right now, pretty much everywhere other than right behind me. So you just can't see it right now. But we've got them in the bar. We've got them in the studio. And they are really cool neon signs started by 2 CU Buffs alums. You can even get custom ones. That's why maybe Zach Allen checks them out and gets a JJJ neon sign for his man cave. And if you want to rock your school, they've got so many schools, over 50 of the biggest schools across the country and counting, for only $75 in their new collection. Unlike traditional neon signs, these are LED signs that won't break or shatter, but still give you that classic uniform glow that we love. LEDs last up to 100,000 hours, so you'll be enjoying your sign for years to come. So use the code DNVR for 10% off over your order at SaturdayNeon.com. That's code DNVR for 10% off over at SaturdayNeon.com.
Shout out to Primo Hoagies. You know who loves Primo Hoagies?
Us?
We do. And then also Pat Sertan, best friend of the show. I see him post about Primo Hoagies. So you know they are top notch. Shout out to Primo Hoagies, who will be providing food at all the Broncos tailgates this season. Primo Hoagies won USA Today's Best Sandwich Shop back-to-back 2023 and 2024. Come taste what makes them the best right here in Centennial, Colorado. Their award-winning bread is baked fresh daily. First is par-baked in Philadelphia, shipped all the way across the country weekly to Primo Hoagies in Centennial, so you can enjoy that authentic, fresh baked taste with the highest quality meats and cheeses. These ingredients are guaranteed to elevate your sandwich. You can get ready for a mouth-watering deal at Primo Hoagies. Right now, grab our special combo, 1 Primo-size hoagie, a 1-ounce bag of chips, and a 20-ounce drink, all for just $15.99. Don't miss out. Swing by the Primo Hoagies Centennial today and treat yourself to the perfect lunch meal.
I love it. And shout out to presenting sponsor Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. Also, shout out to the Twitter chat. A lot of people joining us today. I'm glad that YouTube hasn't let us down today. So hit us with a thumbs up if you're rocking and rolling with us on this show. Show us that you like us doing this every day and that you like us having Baldy on. We really appreciate it. It helps us a lot as well. Todd, the Broncos... the Raiders season's ruined, right? Already 2-8.
Yeah, it's over.
I guess they could get like Antonio Pierce fired this week. Not that you necessarily want to get guys fired, but I don't feel as bad when a guy's getting fired and like a $20 million paycheck out the door. It's kind of like the LSU coach.
Yep, that guy.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about?
Yep.
Not Brian Kelly, but the other one.
Yep.
Ed Ogeron. When he got fired, he said, "Wait, you're gonna pay me to leave right now? Okay, great. Where do I sign? How do I do this?" And so maybe that's how the Broncos can break the Raiders even more. But the Raiders are kind of already broken. We found out from The Athletic last night that the Broncos broke the New York Jets, completely started their free fall on this season. There was a story put out by The Athletic, and I'll read this part about the Broncos. It says, according to sources, the day after the Jets lost to the Broncos on September 29th, there was a contentious meeting in the team facility. It included owner Woody Johnson, general manager, vice chairman, team president, and other top members of the organization. It also included a group of coaches, then head coach Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett, the now interim head coach who was the then defensive coordinator, and their special teams coordinator. The coaches had been called in to explain what happened with their units during the 10-9 loss to the Broncos. During the meeting, owner Woody Johnson suggested to the coaches that they bench Aaron Rodgers in favor of Tyrod Taylor because he felt Rodgers' performance was holding them back.
I had a parent-teacher conference. They got in trouble, huh?
Yes, they did.
That's tough. And they didn't bench him, and then they all started chopping heads. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that was really where it all started.
Dang.
Woody Johnson, after that game where the Broncos held Aaron Rodgers out of the end zone, not the first time they've held the team out of the end zone this year, or not the only time they've done that, got Woody Johnson so upset because it happened in his house to what was then viewed as a bad Broncos team that he wanted Aaron Rodgers bench for Tyrod Taylor. That's maybe the only thing that could have happened this year to make the Jets situation even more chaotic is Aaron Rodgers bench, because I'm sure he would have made an absolute scene.
Oh, absolutely. It would have been a big deal. Or he would have just said, well, you're going to pay me to sit down? All right, I'll do that.
That's true. Since then, so in the rest of the story, it says that the coaches convinced Woody Johnson, he was being a little emotional with it, decided to keep Aaron Rodgers as the starting quarterback because I guess it's better to have Aaron Rodgers be mad at you than the owner, but either way, just a terrible situation.
That's definitely not better.
You want the quarterback to be happy with you?
No, you said they like calmed him down so that
yeah.
I would have much rather had the ownership happy with me.
Oh yeah. And benched Aaron Rodgers.
For sure.
Yeah, that's actually a good point because he does control your paychecks in your future.
100%.
No, you're right about that.
And now when you look back on it, he was 100% right.
Yes, he was. And then so you go on, and clearly they should have done exactly what you're saying, Todd, because then the head coach gets fired. The general manager gets blown out yesterday. And this story in The Athletic is so depressing for the general manager, Joe Douglas. He left a game before it was even over. It was early in the season. I don't remember who it was against, but the Jets had a lead, and then they blew it and lost by like 20 points in this game. The general manager, it was an away game. He left the stadium early fourth quarter, went and sat in the team bus before the game was even over. He just knew he was done.
Oh, dang.
And then lasted 2 more months on the job.
That's tough. That's sad.
And a reason for that is he felt like he had absolutely no power because another part of this story says that Joe Douglas and the New York Jets earlier this offseason offered the Broncos wide receiver Allen Lazard and a day 2 draft pick, meaning either a second or a third round pick, for Jerry Jeudy. But the deal was nixed by the Jets owner, Woody Johnson. Maybe a good call that it was nixed by him for what they were giving up.
Yeah.
Considering a month later, Jerry Jeudy went for, a 5th and a 6th round pick to the Browns. So maybe the Jets were actually overpaying. But the Broncos were involved in this with potentially getting wide receiver Allen Lazard and either a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. Would the Broncos have accepted?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. That would have been huge for the team.
When you look, Allen Lazard would have been, the Broncos wouldn't have signed Josh Reynolds because Allen Lazard, kind of a Josh Reynolds, like they're almost the exact same player in terms of how they play, what they bring to a team, and then the stats that they put up. In the past, like a 700, top max 700-yard player, solid receiver though. So you wouldn't have had to sign Josh Reynolds. Allen Lazard, you wouldn't have had to draft a wide receiver. You still maybe would have got Troy Franklin, but like that position would have been filled. And then you would have had an extra 2nd or a 3rd round pick. And we know what George Payton has been doing with 2nd and 3rd round picks recently.
Been working out really well.
Outside of Greg Dulcich, like every single one of these guys that George Payton's drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round has succeeded. And especially if Marvin Mims can succeed in this new offensive role, then they're all going to be hits.
Dang.
Yeah.
That would have been good.
Broncos could have had another Marvin Mims or Jonah Ellis this year. In the 2nd round, remember who the Broncos' 2nd round pick was this year? No, they didn't have a 2nd round pick because that was part of the Sean Payton trade. That was the final piece there. Yeah, so it went Bo to then Jonah Ellis. So then you would have had a 2nd round pick?
Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
Woody Johnson. You ruined the Broncos' dreams right there.
Woody Johnson, that's funny.
That is a funny name. So the Jets are going in the absolute wrong direction right now. Broncos going in the right direction. And it just makes me, man, what if Aaron Rodgers would have forced his way out of Green Bay when the Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
For 2 hours there, because Aaron Rodgers, the news came out, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., that Aaron Rodgers was staying with the Packers, signing a new deal, and Broncos Country was crushed for 2 hours. Then the Broncos trade for Russell Wilson, not knowing how it was all going to unfold. But you do wonder, would it have worked out with Aaron Rodgers here? He would have had Nathaniel Hackett, but he also has Nathaniel Hackett in New York right now. Or after that other MVP that he got, the final MVP he got, did he just fall off a cliff as a player?
Maybe one too many trips, because the first couple I think are eye-opening, but if you take too much, like ayahuasca and peyote, like you may just go down a rabbit hole that you can't get out of.
Are you speaking from experience?
I've never tried it. I would try it, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I never have.
Isn't ayahuasca the one where like it's from Peru and like you can actually go on like retreats
journey.
there?
Yeah.
That's the way to
of
do
course.
it. Go into a little tent up in Peru in the mountains.
You done it here?
No, I want to really bad, but it's also like you have to do it the right way. I think that's the right way to actually get all the experience from it.
Yeah. It's really. I guess I don't know if that's true, but I would assume.
Are we doing like a DNVR?
Oh my
Peru
God!
trip?
Could you imagine those podcasts? Actually, they probably wouldn't happen. Don't you like? Aren't there some crazy things that happen during these?
Yeah. You're supposed to like revisit past traumas, kind of like get a glimpse into your future.
Also, isn't there bodily functions coming out
everywhere?
Yeah.
There's guts all over the place on that one.
That's rough.
Yeah, I don't really know about that. I don't know if I need that.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
Maybe Aaron just got too much stank on him and wasn't able to recover over these past few years. We got a super chat before we get out of here from our friend Rodney Garcia, who says, "Thank you, Zach and Todd, for the awesome show. You guys are awesome. So proud of Bo on how much he's improved. The best is yet to come. Go Broncos." Thank you, Rodney, for the super chat and the kind words. And man, that's the exciting thing about Bo right now. Typically, John Elway actually told Adam Schefter this last night, and I thought it was a great quote for Bo. John was talking about rookie quarterbacks and said, man, it takes a long time, and it's a very difficult transition for quarterbacks to go from college to the NFL. And then he stops himself and said, outside of Bo, Bo just keeps getting better every single week. Man, that's coming from John, who's tried to develop quarterbacks, and then also signed Peyton Manning, and then was a quarterback himself. Like, he knows how difficult this is, and we're seeing it. Caleb Williams, no touchdowns in the past 4 weeks, yet somehow PFF still thinks he's better than Bo. And Bo Nix, 11 touchdowns in the past 4 weeks. It's just insane, and maybe this is only the start. Maybe we are talking about, you guys said I was crazy saying he was playing at an MVP level over this past month, but maybe next year we are talking about him in the MVP conversation, or 2 years from now, and that's not the craziest thing to say.
No, next year would be wild if he was the MVP next year, because we would be in a very good position as a team. But over the next course of the next 3 to 5 years, I think for sure we'll be talking about him I hope that we'll be talking about him as an MVP.
Yeah, and boy, steal of the draft, if that's the case. I believe Jayden Daniels is the truth. I mean, that's not a real stretch to go out and say. We're still waiting to see on Caleb Williams. If it's him, if it's the Browns, if it's both, if it's more of the Browns, and he'll become better once they fire Matt Eberflus, which I know our guys up at CHGO are desperately hoping for. We don't know about J.J. McCarthy. We don't know about Michael Penix, although he had a couple nice throws in that Broncos game. And then who's the Drake May? He's actually looking better than I expected as well. But right now, over the past month, no one has looked better than the 6th quarterback taken.
Nobody knows like Bo knows.
Yeah, exactly. Man, the Toyota chat. We've got so much good news about Bo today, blowing up over that. We talk about ayahuasca. And the Toyota chat is like, oh, we're experts here right now. Maybe someone's on a little ayahuasca journey is what they're called right now. If so, I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope the show is even better then.
There's no way you could watch a podcast on your journey. You would trip out. I feel like your mind would go crazy.
That's what do you do? Just nothing?
I think you just have to lay there.
You're already crazy enough as you're at. You don't need any stimulants.
You guys just aren't selling me on this. You can't do anything? This sounds awful.
No, you're
No,
doing
you're-
enough.
You're doing enough.
Like you already talked about it. Like everything's coming out. Like your brain's going crazy. Like you couldn't function if
It's
you
all
wanted
in your
to.
head. You're making your own DNVR podcast in your head as
Yeah.
you're in there.
Yeah, again, you're not selling me on this. And is Chris? I probably would trip you out, TB007. And as Cristiano says, final conclusion: gotta trust Sean frickin' Payton. Man, coach of the year. He should be in that conversation as well. We got so much more to break down. Let's dive into the Raiders. Are we overlooking them since we didn't talk about them today? Are the Broncos overlooking them? Is there anything to be concerned about? I agree. Todd's not worried. I'm not
Easy
worried.
work.
But we'll dive into our final picks on tomorrow's show. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m.
We all silly like the mayor.